Has COVID-19 changed our dreams? Do REM sleep disturbances create near-death experiences? When Brains Dream, a new book on the mystery of sleep, and other news. Welcome to Phase Today. This is the first news media about lucid dreams, sleep paralysis, and other phase states. Are you ready? Has COVID-19 changed our dreams? The scientific journal Dreaming dedicated a special section in September 2020 to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our dreams. Researchers from different countries have published reports on how the content of our dreams has changed since March 2020. It turns out that COVID-19 has indeed affected our dreams. We have begun to sleep longer, remember more dreams, and have different kinds of dreams. A special term has even appeared on the network, COVID nightmares. Survey participants note that their dreams have become more bizarre, vivid, and disturbing. Scientific American reported that 37% of people in the US have dreams about the pandemic, with 29% remembering significantly more dreams than usual. In China's Wuhan province, where the epidemic began, 45% of nurses surveyed said they had nightmares. This percentage is twice as high as that recorded among isolation patients in psychiatric clinics. People who have had dreams about COVID-19 often describe them using the following terms: epidemic, zombies, apocalypse, signs of suffocation, fights in a supermarket, fear of being alone, or burying someone close. An even more curious part of COVID nightmares, however, is the prevalence of insect imagery. Scientists from different countries have noted more and more dreams about swarms of wasps, ants, and beetles attacking people. According to scientists, this is how our brain constructs the simulation of a threat in a dream. The idea is that the virus is invisible and intangible. Since it is a problem that we cannot solve in waking life, we tend to transfer the emotional experience of it into our dreams, which become nightmares. Our brains rebuild the metaphorical chain as a way to find solutions in dreams in a distorted form, similar to what people with post-traumatic stress disorder experience. Nevertheless, according to scientists, lucid dreams can help break this chain. People who have experienced COVID nightmares can overcome their fear, or at least learn to control it with the help of lucid dreams. Some scientists, including Dr. Denholm Aspey from the University of Adelaide in Australia, draw attention to the fact that dream recall is up by about 35% for the average person. This means that right now is the best time to practice phase-entering techniques. After all, general dream recall ability is the strongest predictor of successfully learning lucid dreaming. Michael Radiga from Phase Research Center comments, "We are talking about nothing less than a global change in dream culture. Most likely, the main factor behind this is not only the invisible threat of the pandemic, but a change in lifestyle. In conditions of working from home, unemployment, or long vacations, we begin to sleep more. And the more we sleep, the more often we see dreams in the morning, and the better we are able to remember them. We can assume that phase experiences have also started happening more often." How have your dreams changed over the past year? How lucid dreams affect mental and physical health. Despite the fears of some scientists about the possible negative impact of lucid dreaming on people's physical and mental health, actual practitioners are increasingly sharing amazing stories of how their lives have changed thanks to the influence of lucid dreams. Thus, according to a 2016 survey, 40% of practitioners said they use lucid dreams for physical or mental healing. The study's authors, led by Daniel Erlacher of the University of Bern in Switzerland, recently published new data. It was found that out of 386 survey participants who practice lucid dreaming, 90% feel the beneficial impact of the practice on their mental and physical health. Moreover, more than half of the participants experience lucid dreams more often than once a month. According to scientists, these promising results are associated with the participants' increased awareness. The scientists also note that experiments on the use of lucid dreaming for inner growth and self-healing have shown positive results since the 1980s. The practice of lucid dreaming develops mindfulness and openness. It teaches us to cope with difficult situations, which has a beneficial effect on dreamer self-esteem. In the future, for the sake of evaluating the qualitative aspect of this effect, the authors propose to conduct an experiment on long-term lucid dreaming therapy, with an assessment of the participant state before and after. This kind of study can be conducted in rehabilitation programs, for example, to test whether the practice of lucid dreaming can accelerate the process of physical and mental recovery. The study was published in October 2020 in the International Journal of Dream Research. Do REM sleep disturbances create near-death experiences? People who have had near-death experiences or who have found themselves teetering on the edge between life and death often describe their experiences as mystical. Regardless of gender, age, ethnicity, and faith, they all experience the distortion of time and space, see bright lights, and feel out-of-body sensations. However, scientists are still baffled as to the origin of these experiences, since the brain is not functioning at the time of clinical death. According to Daniel Congela, a neurologist at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, things may not be that simple. I have a theory that near-death experiences may occur when the brain is still functionally and structurally intact. I think that before passing out, people have the near-death experience. When they are then resuscitated, the last thing that they remember is that experience, the scientist told NBC News. In a study published in 2019, Congela shares the findings from an online survey of 1,034 people from 35 countries. Approximately 10% of all participants, or 106 people, reported a near-death experience, with a score of greater than or equal to 7 on the Grayson scale, adopted for the assessment of near-death experiences. These data were compared with disorders of the REM sleep phase, such as sleep paralysis, during which a person experiences similar sensations, auditory and visual hallucinations, a feeling of floating outside of the body, and fear of death. The results showed that REM sleep disturbances were more common in people who have had near-death experiences. They were present in 47% of cases. Those who have not had near-death experiences were 3 times less likely to have REM sleep disturbances, only 14%. This finding indicates a significant relationship between the two conditions and suggests that they have a common neurological basis. It also corroborates Congela's hypothesis that the physiology of the brain during a near-death experience is not impaired and is thus able to preserve and reconstruct the memories of the near-death experience. We remind you that back in 2012 at the Phase Research Center, under the leadership of Michael Raduga, researchers were able to use a phase state to recreate typical near-death experiences in the form of leaving the body and flying into a tunnel toward the light. The article was published in 2019 in Peer J magazine. What is the difference between consciousness in sleep and wakefulness? It is generally accepted that consciousness differs significantly between sleep and wakefulness. When we sleep, we experience an unconscious stream of thoughts and images. In the waking state, we are aware of everything that is happening to us and can influence the flow of thoughts and actions. Lucid dreams are an exception to the rule, however. Even in this state, our consciousness functions in an intermediate mode between sleep and wakefulness. Can we outline the boundaries between conscious states, and are they so straightforward? Author Jennifer M. Wind from Monash University in Australia tried to answer this question. According to Wind, the boundaries between different states of consciousness are more blurred than they seem at first glance. In support of her hypothesis, the scientist cites recent research showing that a significant part of our waking life is spent in a state of wandering mind or spontaneous thoughts. Indeed, especially in the digital age, it is becoming more and more common to spend a portion of our life on autopilot. By some estimates, we spend up to 50% of our waking life daydreaming. This state includes any time when our thoughts and attention are not focused on what we are doing, and instead unfold in a free associative flow. According to some scholars, dreams may be an extreme form of wandering mind. Wynne, for example, claims that dreams are analogous to our consciousness functioning in offline mode, free from the influence of the environment, external stimuli, and tasks. Lucid dreams, despite the apparent differences in consciousness, also take place in offline mode. The dreamer experiences events in a dreamlike world, but it is nevertheless a part of it. In sleep and in reality, we experience states of spontaneous thoughts that take on multiple variations. Future research may thus shed light on the differences in the nature of consciousness, not in terms of the boundaries of sleep and wakefulness, but in terms of different types of mind wandering. The study was published in December 2020 in the Royal Society Journal. When Brains Dream, a new book on the mystery of sleep. January 2021 saw the publication of a new book dedicated to how our brains behave during sleep. The authors of the book, called When Brains Dream, Exploring the Science and Mystery of Sleep, are sleep scientists and researchers Antonio Zadra from the University of Montreal and Robert Stickle from Harvard. Ahead of the book's release, author Antonio Zadra was interviewed by the American radio station KPCW, in which he spoke about his latest research. He also answered questions about the science of sleep, such as: is it possible to learn to see lucid dreams? What happens during REM sleep? How does our memory affect our dreams? What do dogs dream about? And so on. One of the most interesting and topical questions the researcher was asked related to the mysteries that sleep science is yet to unravel. According to the scientist, the main questions that we have yet to answer are: how does our brain create the world of dreams? And how does our consciousness understand that it was only a dream upon waking up? The book answers popular questions about what dreams are and where they come from. It lays out the psychological and neurological foundations of the science of sleep and enumerates the different types of dreams, from nightmares to lucid dreams. The authors pay special attention to the latest scientific research in this area and talk about how dreams can be a source of creativity. It should be noted separately that Antonio Zadra has cited scientific works in the field of lucid dreaming, so his book can be useful to all phase practitioners. Is sleep paralysis possible in the elderly? It is believed that sleep paralysis is extremely rare in old age. Most studies attribute this phenomenon to a younger age group, especially college students and teens. However, there is very little research on older age groups, which leaves room to wonder whether this is simply a preconceived notion. A 1999 study on the prevalence of mental disorders in elderly Chinese people aged 70 and up found evidence to refute this hypothesis. In addition to questions about the study's main subject, the participants were asked questions about whether they have ever experienced signs of sleep paralysis. Almost 18% of the 158 respondents turned out to be familiar with this phenomenon. The prevalence curve of the phenomenon showed peaks during two distinct periods: in adolescence and after the age of 60. More than a third of the participants reported having begun experiencing sleep paralysis later in life. Curiously, until now, stories of sleep paralysis in old age have been a rare sight in scientific publications. One such example was the case of a 76-year-old man from India, which was described by his attending physician in the Journal of Geriatric Mental Health. According to the doctor, the man reported repeated attacks of sleep paralysis, during which he experienced hallucinations of alien abduction and was unable to move. These episodes had been plaguing him for the past 2 years. Even though they always stopped after 15 to 20 minutes, the patient was so scared that he would start crying following each such attack. In this case, sleep paralysis was probably caused by sleep disturbances, often experienced by older people. Otherwise, the man's mental and physical condition was rated as good. According to the doctor, psychiatrists need to be especially careful when examining older patients for sleep paralysis, since these phenomena are rarely talked about, and there is a high risk of attributing symptoms to age-related mental changes. This article was published in the June 2020 issue of the Journal of Geriatric Mental Health. As you can see, our topic is actively developing. In order not to miss new discoveries, right now subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media, where we publish news daily. All links are in the description. See you next week.